привет. Так.
Hi, everyone.
Да, всем привет. Меня зовут
Hi, everyone. My name is
компания Mixbyte.
Sergey Prudusky. I'm from Mixbytes.
Разработка, исследованием, но
What we do is blockchain development and research, but our main profile is a smart contract security audit. We've already done quite a lot from very large customers.
много миллионов долларов.
So
Вот.
there are lots of millions of dollars running through the code that we built. We've been lucky. So far, nobody has been hacked. Smart contract auditors are rare birds, highly skilled, and it's impossible to find them in the market. We train them ourselves. We have courses. We require of the auditors that they should be aware of all the attack vectors. We have to deal with a lot of vulnerabilities, and my presentation today is about the vulnerabilities that are quite popular. You'll find them in checklists, and any auditor will have to know about how they can be exploited.
Это безопасно.
But actually, there are cases where these vulnerabilities could be exploited in a non-trivial way. Also, my presentation implies that you know something about smart contracts DeFi. For those who absolutely don't know anything, you can consider smart contracts as stored procedures. We have a distributed database, blockchain, and smart contracts are stored procedures operating with balances of a lot of financial assets. The first thing is Oracle price manipulation. Perhaps it's the most popular attack vectors now. When I was preparing the presentation, I just picked some arbitrary digest of vulnerabilities for the week and see how many ticks there are here. These are all Oracle price manipulation attacks. These attacks are run quite frequently now. They are run according to a certain pattern. For instance, we have a Lightning protocol, a protocol where you put a certain token and as a security. For instance, you brought in Ethereum and took some dollars, USDTs. And for instance, this is required to do short transactions. And then you have to return your debt, repay what you owe, and take back your collateral. So, how much the information about how much it costs is got from Oracle's smart contracts that provide the information about how much is the Ethereum to dollar, for instance. There are many assets, many different types, many different protocols, and Oracle price manipulation is quite a clear pattern. I bought a token, then I went to some next protocol where its price is determined. I pushed this price, so I bought a lot of this token for the price to go up, and I'd use this price in the previous protocol to sell it at profit. So playing with numbers with different contracts and protocols, you can easily execute an attack like this. So, for instance, you made a deposit, then went to another decentralized exchange, just made a call to its contract, did something so that the price of this token went up, and then made a withdrawal. Withdrew the token back, but at a different price, and got a profit. It's all amplified by flash loans in blockchain. As part of one transaction, you can, for instance, borrow $1 million. So you run a transaction, you borrow $1 million, the protocol would allow you to do that. Then you go trade it, sell, buy, sell at several exchanges, get some profit. At the end of the transaction, you return this $1 million back. And you don't need to either register or anything. So any programmer can do it at a small cost to make a 1 million worth transaction. It wouldn't cost a lot. But at the end of the transaction, you'll have to return because otherwise the whole transaction will be rolled back and your commission will stay with them. So this scheme is quite popular because
контракты
many protocols find it very convenient to take the price from the swap pool.
на этом
Contract that contained in the main form two balances of the token. In Ethereum and USDT, you will do
в
USDT and you left
что-то продаете.
Ethereum.
Здесь это алгоритмически, не как в обычных биржах.
So depending on what you withdraw and what you contribute, the price is going down or up. It's done algorithmically. There are no order books, just like in traditional exchanges. So this scenario is quite often used within the same transaction. The classic example is Harvest Protocol. Here I have a reference. Person first exchanged tokens in one direction.
Потом он их куда-то
Then
изменил цену этих
they
свапнул обратно.
pawned it somewhere, changing the price, and then brought it back and did it many times.
Заработал,
Doing a flash loan with a huge
возвращаются. Ну и
loan
аудиторы рекомендуют
arm.
называемые time-weighted,
So how to protect
то есть
against this? They use time-weighted average price.
свапы, которые там происходят,
So when the contract tracks swaps, what we have exchanged against anything, and it remembers aggregate the previous prices. For instance, the median average price over the past 3 exchanges, or 10 exchanges, or 100 exchanges, and this way, within the same transaction, within the same block, because it's all atomic, this you can't push this price in either direction.
или маленькие.
So here we have lots of kind of trash projects as well.
Пример
But nevertheless, the first
там, где атака
example is inverse finance,
этим тварям.
where the attackers
Здесь не было использовано
were able to manipulate this TWAP. They didn't use flash loans, but they used a different thing that we're going to discuss quite a lot today. It's about the capability to front-run transactions in blockchain. Here we have complete democracy. Anybody can front-run transactions. You don't need any special services. There are APIs. Please compete with others.
как бы здесь это
Insert your transactions in front of other people's transactions. You can do it here. So what the attacker did here,
сейчас
they noticed that inside the Oracle price,
за последний блок. То есть всего-то как бы предыдущий
so the price is basically the price for the previous block.
лоун взять на
You can't work within one transaction. You can't take a flash loan for $10 million and push the price too much. You can't do that. So what they did,
много.
they purchased these tokens, of which there are a lot,
Их
pushed the price up considerably. They want many of them in the swap pool, so therefore they managed to push it very high. And because it's only for one block, he swarmed the block with transactions, not allowing anyone, not allowing other traders, bots,
если бы
that may have seen the price variation to also swarm in. So they were able to stay within one block. The price went up considerably, and they put this token as a collateral and took a lot of money against this collateral. They borrowed. Of course, the price for the next block went down. Trading bots, swarmed in, sold a lot of this token. The price went down, but the protocol already had this bad debt.
токенов, которые
So still, a whole lot of these locked tokens stayed there, whereas a guy he used them as a collateral to take a lot of collateral. So they went away with a lot of money.
успешные.
An example of a similar hack, but this time unsuccessful. Somebody decided to repeat this thing. They took
Значит,
this token, found a pool, a few tokens like this, bought a lot of that to raise the price, and was sitting, waiting for this TWAP to grow, to
смотрел
borrow.
токены BET,
But while he was looking at the BET token contract, They didn't notice. They thought that I have purchased these BET tokens. There are a few of them,
чтобы его продавать.
and traders' bots won't have anywhere to get this token to sell it. But they missed out that these tokens are mutable, so anybody can issue them for themselves.
Печатать сколько нужно bet,
They
заметил,
give out other tokens and issue BET tokens. So bots swarmed in, they sold everything, and as a result, the attacker lost 68 Ethereum coins. So similar scenarios, but one guy's managed and the other didn't because they missed out the information. That's an interesting story about swap manipulation.
извлечь. Во-первых,
What lessons can we derive from that? Firstly, if you're using price aggregation, you should use
по которому происходит агрегация, чтобы атакующим нужно было
quite a large window of which the aggregation is happening, so the attacker should stay
поговорим.
longer. Also, you should remember about the front runner.
Много
That
историй.
we're still going to talk about. All the normal protocol have quite a lot of sources for prices. They use several pools.
То есть
They use pools with a lot of liquidity, with large amounts circulating, so they couldn't be manipulated easily.
проектов, которые
Use additional Chainlink projects to get information, so that again the price couldn't be pushed easily. Also in DeFi, it's very low liquidity tokens are very dangerous. If you see that a token that there's $1 million of, then it's dangerous because anybody can,
Ну и кроме того, этими миллионами
push the price up or down.
не стоит
Also, with these millions, you shouldn't hope
200 миллионов.
that your protocol will not be attacked because
Они- Его можно атаку провести.
in blocks are emulated very easily, and you can run a guaranteed attack. A lot of attacks can be done with a lot of funds
Тоже
earned in previous hacks.
вообще
Another MEV is the subject of 2022,
максимал
deriving from a minor extractable value or maximum extractable value. It's about a situation where people are earning on reordering transaction in blocks. So you send the transactions, it's analyzed, front run,
злые,
and they earn on you. And again, it's a complete democracy. It's open market. You can actually bargain in the block, and there are whole contests going on, whole front run this deal. So don't worry, any of your transactions will be fully analyzed. And it can be front run, it will be front run. These MEV bots, of course, we all hate them. They are stealing profits from us. They're front running us. But on the other hand,
санитаров леса. То есть они же как бы
the other function is to become, as they call the sanitars of the forest, like insects in the forest. They mitigate all the unwanted situations.
как бы налетают все, как бы все.
So as soon as there's an opportunity of earning, they swarm there and level out the prices.
Твап
So this is an example of unusual exploiting
встречается, как бы используйте твап.
that is mentioned in all recommendations
Вторая история
to
это
avoid oracle price manipulation. Another thing, initialization backrunning. Again, it's a story about
в блок,
analyzing a transaction even before it's become part of the block. Somebody saw a transaction and link that transaction
атаках, которые
to it. This attack vector is known mostly for
нам нужно
contract initialization in proxies. So when we had the system of upgradable contract, you need to change code there. So a system of several contracts is built. There's a proxy contract
сам
because there's protocol version 1, version 2. The protocol needs to be updated. So the most famous hacks were about developers not doing the initialization right. Maybe they specify the address with a mistake, or maybe someone
история.
came in sooner and They inserted their own admin there.
Оракула, который...
Oh, another example. We've just initialized an Oracle giving the price, and its price is 0, and you can play on that
Для этого, как команда
as well.
за деплоями, за инициализацией,
So the teams, to avoid this, teams are keeping a close eye on deploys initialization, but there's also this standard
шары,
4626, we call them shards. It's a super popular DeFi pattern. It's when you bring in $100 in a contract and get 100 shares, and another guy brings in $200 and gets 200 shares. You own a third of this pool, and
потому что у него
that guy owns 2/3 of this pool because they have 200
вносите в какой...
out of 300. It's a super popular pattern because you're investing your tokens in some general pool and have a right for a certain share of these tokens.
протоколов есть.
This is the way most protocols are organized. And there's a popular standard to define this. The problem with
Таких вот транзакций. Смотрите,
is that such transactions can be backrun.
достаточно.
So this is an example of a contract code, quite simple here.
Мы
So
создали...
imagine we have just created this pool and we're waiting while somebody is going to bring us some USDTs. Doesn't matter which tokens, certain numbers to get a certain number of shares. So here you see convert to assets, convert to shares, these functions. And the scenario, the attack scenario looks like this.
Первое, про что как бы здесь надо...
The first thing you need to remember about
Целочисленное.
is in blockchain. All operations, all transactions are integer. There are no floating point operations there, only synthetic if you do the math. Blockchains don't operate with floating points because different CPUs issue results with different accuracy, whereas blockchain requires bit-for-bit accuracy. So everything is done in integer.
Интересная история.
And this allows doing the following. Look, a guy. So we have an empty pool. Total assets equals 0.
Supply, то есть он,
Total supply
он
is 0. So it's
не знаю, инвестор,
empty.
как назвать,
The first investor comes in. I don't know how to call them. User.
не знаю, чего
So they bring in 20,000 something
хочет получить.
USDT, for instance, and they want to get 20,000 shares.
Владение как бы этим пулом.
Is going to have 100% ownership of this pool, following the scenario. But then, look what happens. The attacker sees this transaction that the first guy has brought in the 20K.
Сам протокол один.
And what they do is they put $1.
Один
Let's speak in dollar terms. They invest $1 there and one share. So altogether, there's $1 in the pool.
без
And then they manually, without the contract,
можете запретить контракту.
because in Ethereum smart contracts, you can't ban the
Он просто берет
contracts to get
$20 000
to get risk. So they put 20,000
ассетов.
to the contract.
То есть на балансе контракта.
Now the total assets on the balance is $20,001, but the total supply of shares is still 1 because he's done that manually, bypassing the function. Then the victim comes,
$1 туда. И
invests $20,000,
деление
and because of this integer division, he gets no shares, 0 shares, because
нолик.
20,000, the 1 divided by 20,000 is 0.
Участника.
So as a result, the 20,000 become
Он ее спокойно живет.
the ownership of the owner of one share.
Атака, она там описана у нас в статейке.
This is the attack.
Article.
It's described in an article, inflation article. And how you can find that? Firstly, you can ban
Ноль как бы запачиваем.
awarding 0 shares, right?
Просто запретим как бы выдавать ноль.
Let's just ban it. Okay, good. But
Как бы остается
the situation remains
exploitable, в том числе
exploitable
тоже как бы с теми же самыми 20 тысячами.
because with the same 20,000,
Хочет человек как бы получить
the guy wants to get 20,000 shares,
с одним
exactly the same front run with 1 token, and the attacker invests $10,000, again, using a simple transfer.
В этом случае у нас
In this case,
получается ситуация, когда
we get into a situation where the victim gets one share
у атакующего остается одна,
and the attacker
атакующий положил 10,
still gets one share. But the attacker invested 10,000, whereas the victim invested 20,000. But they now have equal amount of shares, and it looks like the $5,000
такими делами
can be taken by the guy who's only invested 10,000.
это
So it's about integer division. One of the solutions to this problem is to create pools that can't have any zeros.
вообще и просто
Can't have any zeros at all.
Uniswap
So when creating a Uniswap,
проектов,
one of the best-known project in DeFi,
он сразу же делает
it does.
одну акцию, там один шер
It just issues one share.
по адресу. То есть просто
And was it to address zero? There's some dummy address. It already has one share, and it is an attempt to mitigate this problem. But again, it comes back.
становится
It never goes away. It's just becoming more difficult to exploit. Here, I'm repeating the same scenario.
с zero shares.
In first case, zero shares
С одной акцией нам уже проблема как бы с выдачей.
with one share.
Но
The problem of issuing.
создаем на адресе не одну,
So in this case,
делаем 1000
we are
для того, чтобы
doing
оперировать
1,000 shares instead of one share
единичками какими-то.
in order to operate with real accuracy. But in this case, the attacker can bring in 20 million, and it all roll back to the situation that we described. So it's still exploitable.
Заранее могут
I confirm all these attacks can be pre-emulated, so the attacker may be sure that they are not going to lose those 20 million, but they will be able to take away the other guy's money. So numerically, the problem is not going away, and should be aware of that. If you're initializing something, if you're deploying something in blockchain, this process should be under control. In DeFi,
разработчиков деплоит. Она еще деплоит
it's
независимо.
not a developer team that deploys, but they should be deployed under the supervision of auditors in right project.
Станьте не ошибки.
So they're saying, guys, please keep an eye,
И, соответственно,
track what we're doing, so there shouldn't be any errors. So how is it mitigated? If you're doing something on 4626, if you're issuing shares to someone, you need to have those dead shares, the
как бы лишь бы это,
initial
это должна быть не единичка, это должна
share, which is not a zero, and should be one. It should be quite high, so that the cost of the attack should be high, and the deploy should be done with a single transaction.
быть пул с нулем, а потом
So it would be wrong to create a pool with zero and then with transaction number 2 to send in the money initiate. Although the majority of people do like that. It's just this vector, attack vector, has not been too very well known. And now a lot of people know about that, and they will immediately front run you. So the deploy should be done in a single transaction. So you create a pool out of a special contract, and within the same transaction buy some shares from them. You can use MEVs, transactions, and so on and so forth. The number of dead shares should be reasonable. And coming back to TWAP, you should mitigate the problems with flash loans so that somebody will just bring in $10 million into the same transaction, buy everything. To mint and burn these transactions, these shares you have within the same transactions. And I won't even mention that the auditor should supervise the front-running attempts. The next part, front-runners. We all hate those MEV bots that steal profits from us. But there are also people who are able to cheat the MEV bots. in a smart way. This time,
все могут как бы фронт.
well, and as I said, everybody can front run, and this is the way it can be done.
Сервисы
The
флешбот.
first example is about the flashbot service, the MEV boost
И
that I already mentioned.
похакан. Первый вообще
That
такой
was hacked. The
антимер.
first example
Троянин.
of anti-MEV, it was a Trojan attack token. So a guy made a token, it inserted a Trojan, saying that if I'm, transferring to it, it's a normal amount. If it's somebody else, I steal 99%. So he placed this token, created a price for it, created swap pools. So MEVBots thought it attractive. Then he made a deal that MEVBots started to swarm in, and he just took away what they were trading from them. So this pattern is called poison token. It's also known to all auditors. It's used in a lot of places.
Как бы из рекомендаций как бы все нормальные опять.
So from recommendations, all normal DeFi protocols don't work with arbitrary tokens. You can't create your own token and go start trading it in all protocols.
Аудита этого токена, если чтобы вы туда ничего.
Serious guys won't admit you there without an audit of this token.
Была сделана совершенно законными.
But this thing was done with absolutely legal tokens, and it was done with the help of a malicious validator in Ethereum. Anybody can become a validator for 32 Ethereum coins. So the person who registered as a validator was waiting for the guy who would come to check the blocks. How does the service MapBoost works? So I'm a trader. I got a tasty transaction.
Поймал вкусную транзакцию, кто-то покупает.
Somebody is buying a lot of Ethereum.
Я вижу и заворачиваю это.
So I see that, and I put it in a sandwich. Traders have this language. So if somebody's buying, this price is going to grow. So before his transaction, I put a transaction, so I buy this token. The second transaction, the user transaction, the price is going up. And with the third transaction, I sell this token. I have a 100% guarantee that I have a profit. So this is the usual trader sandwich. And here, people are fighting for these sandwiches and the MEV service. Everybody is publishing their transactions saying, please include this transaction to block. And within this bundle, there's also an award for the validator. So basically, it's an auction that's happening there because there's a lot more guys like me, and we're competing for who's going to pay more to the validator for the inclusion into the block. The one arriving second will lose. So here is done that these users have talked to relay builders. Some auctions are run. Relay builder choose the highest profit combination, offering the most benefit for the validator. Of that, they should pass this block to validators for them to sign it and publish in the network. But so that the validator should not front them. They did a commit reveal scheme. This relay actually didn't give the block to the validator. Presented only the header. Say, please assign the header. The validator signs the header line, not seeing the body of the block. It passes it back to relay, and relay publishes it as the entire block in blockchain. So validator can't refuse that they've already signed. Repudiate. So in this case, the bug was that this relay guy wasn't checking the correctness of the header that the validator returned. And when it came to this malicious validator, it returned to relay, to the relay guy, invalid header. So the network will not accept it. The relay guy didn't check it. They thought, okay, they published the block, I'm going to publish. They returned it, I'm going to publish it. The relay is publishing the block. The block is wrong, but its content is already disclosed. So this was the way for the relay guy to disclose the block to the validators. So the validator sees the content
Значит, что он сделал?
and is sure that
Сначала он подготовил
the
очень
return
вкусненькие
header will not be
транзакции в
accepted
этом
by
блоке,
the network. So what he does, he
который как бы подал
first
мефботы.
offered some tasty transactions that
И
bots were attracted to. He put swaps with a large number of tokens and set an infinite slippage. Slippage is like a corridor. At which price I'm prepared to buy this token, how much it can float. All these deals are made with some slippage because they're being front run. And when doing a swap, you have to have a guarantee that you're not going to buy $1 for the price of $100. So they say, I'm going to buy this token from 0.99 to 1.01. For this transaction, the slippage was set as infinite. So the bot thought, okay, the guys came to buy million of dollars without any slippage. We're going to front run them. And if initially, in the initial block, that these MEV bots made the structure was like this. The MEV bot is buying, then the attacker is buying. That was the bot plan. But the attacker, in their validator, just replace it with this construct. They buy, then the bot buy. The bot has seen a tasty transaction. They immediately buy $1 million worth of dollars tokens, and then the attacker is selling, and in most likelihood the cost will fall. So it includes it in the block, and so in a single shot you just earn $20 million.
То есть вообще сам объем
taken away from trading bots. Actually, the whole size of this market, MEV, ordering transactions, as I said, it was the hottest topic of the year 2022. Hundreds of millions of dollars are being made every month just on blocks. And if you thought that miners and validators are earning on mining and validation, this is wrong. They mostly earn on this kind of things. There's a whole market for this ordering, transaction ordering. Perhaps the most famous article about this is Ethereum is Dark Forest. If you read this book. So it just takes Lucian's books. So once a civilization can be seen in the universe, it is immediately killed, just like this here. Once you show the transaction, you've been killed. And what's interesting in DeFi, even hacks are taken away. A hacker writes an exploit that costs $1 million, and they just front run, and the validator is doing this exploit instead of them. There were lots of examples of this. And the last example here, I think it's the most elegant hacks of 2022. Exciting one. Everything was used here, like backdoor in the logic, flash loan, a check, whether it's a contract or not contract, unexpected sending of Ethereum to the address that did not 3-2 special way of creating contracts in the Ethereum network that allows placing smarter code in the address, even though people think it's just a regular address. So this is also a stable coin protocol. Somebody adds a deposit, collateral, then gets something extend. But the most interesting thing is the management of this project is done over DAO, like in normal protocols. How does it look? If a team of developers or the community want to update a protocol, maybe change some commission, fee, parameter, deploy new code, this is done automatically in smart contracts. Proposals, a proposal is placed, it's called BIP here. They use another standard of this DAO governance. And in this proposal, there's the encountered code that needs to be executed to update the code. For instance, add a new version of the contract or change the fee size from 3% to 2%. It's all voted for. People vote with the tokens of the same project. It's common practice. If you own like 100 tokens out of 1,000,000, it means that you have 100 voices from 1,000,000, and you can you can vote for the development of this protocol. So how did the attack look? Very exciting. A person created a proposal, basically wrote in the forum, "Hey guys, and he was supposed to add the address of a contract. Let's execute this code all together. And if voters should have sent experts or programmers to check whether this code needed to be executed. But it was this guy's 18th proposal. Yeah. Sorry, I think I ran a little bit ahead. First about the application. Here, the voting is happening whether we execute or not execute this code. In normal mode, by the way, the execution, the voting is done here. Votes are being collected, and once they're over a certain threshold, you can execute this proposal. You get an opportunity of launching this protocol update. But here it wasn't like this. If within 24 hours nobody has voted, then by default this emergency commit would activate it. It's like you need to vote urgently. There was some special logic, and so the difference from the usual normal commit was that within the same function, you could both vote and execute. So the attacker, in order to launch a malicious code, needed to stay until this emergency commit would be launched, requiring some time, like 24 hours. And secondly, to persuade everyone to vote for. So they created BIP 18 and indicated the address that looked like empty. They even put some Ethereum coins there. It looked like they copy-pasted inadvertently their own address.
Какой-то левый адрес, и все такие подумали, ну это...
And everybody thought, okay, it's some trash, so the guy made a mistake. But the guy immediately corrected it, seemingly created bit 19, proposed to send 250 tokens DAO to the nation address to Ukraine. And they referred to the contract named in it BIP 17. So he misled everybody by saying, like he made a mistake. So please, guy, please ignore this proposal. And he went 24 hours because the proposal was a trash one. Nobody voted for it. And then this emergency commit got enabled, after which they took a flash loan for $600 million. And he did that only because you can do voting with special token for this protocol. So he purchased a huge number of them, and it was part of the same transaction, flash mode. Then he did this emergency commit. So with all those hundreds of $1 million, he was just getting more than 50% of votes. And as part of the same emergency commit, after voting, he did execute. So far, it's not yet clear what they were executing because the address was specified as empty. But here, this story with create2 worked. This is the thing that allows pre-calculate the address where the contract code would be posted for the address that used to be empty. And so he just said, take all money in this protocol and transfer to me. So first, he deploys the contract that takes out the money, then takes flash loan, then votes, wins the voting, corrects his own proposal, and sends the money. and the same from 250,000 to bin. So they went away with a large amount. As it resulted in a very elegant and a very powerful hack that used a lot. And such attack vectors are also available here. So you can get into very interesting things here. Also to add, up until recently, it used to be believed like blockchain, what they're doing, some open source, some security, some newbies. Actually, over these years, the industry has grown and developed considerably. So it has everything that can exist in normal open source development. There are standards, there are security checklists, there are teams, there are best practices. So over these years, the industry has grown considerably. And they're all good with security. The top protocols are actually quite good because they're being verified very thoroughly. And survival is actually quite Darwinian here because they hack you and you're dead. It's very difficult to survive here because attackers has a huge advantage here. Because when we're discussing vulnerabilities, pen testers are doing it in black box. Here, it's it's a total white box, completely open protocol, and you can track any attack to the last penny. So basically, you can replay anything that exists in the real world, and that gives a big advantage to the attackers. But nevertheless, those who manage to survive in the system, these are really serious guys. Now that's it. If you have any questions.
Спасибо, Сергей. Очень интересно.
Thank you, Sergey. A very exciting presentation. Indeed, a lot of useful knowledge. I would like to ask the following question. Imagine I'm a DeFi. I'd want to issue my own token, like a governance token. And I would like to know which attack vectors exist to issue a regular ERC-20. What possible problems I may face? Well, in a standard way, if you're issuing a standard token, then from the known ones, there are none. The question is how you're going to use it, how many of it you are going to mint, how you're going to burn it, whereas in the token contract, there are no problems as such. It's an established standard that's been used by 1,000 assets, ones that are the best, ones that are not the best, with huge capitalization, so it can be safe to issue tokens. But I recommend to add not to add to constraints. JP Morgan issued crypto euro, and as for regulation, they added some function using which they can, return these tokens from any address. And this thing, it may be useful for the regulator, but it makes it absolutely unusable in DeFi. Because imagine you have 1 billion of these crypto euros in DeFi protocols. It's user money, and they just come in and take all the money from this protocol. So they can actually harm 1,000 people. So crypto people believe that these days are quite strange. I'm aware about the L3 protocol. They issued their own token, but they added a blacklist that allows them at the mode of transaction, ban any address. USDT have had this function for many years. They can block, they do block hacker money, anyone. But if they want to block a protocol holding tens of billions of dollars, they will do that and everything gets broken. And so protocols are now running away from them to a better algorithmic asset that don't have such features. So potentially it's a problem. Yes, it is a problem. Thank you. Better not do anything like this.
Sergey, спасибо большое за...
Sergey, thank you very much for your presentation. It's been very exciting. You've covered a lot of ground.
Вы мне напомнили.
I would like to ask you to remind me what's the difference between front running and MEV? Well, front running is simply when you see somebody's transaction and insert yours in front of it. It's just a general name. It works it works in traditional exchanges and information system, whereas a MEV bot is a trading bot that does front running. So they try to catch transactions the earlier the better and insert themselves earlier. How can you insert a transaction earlier than them? You know, they're distributed on the peer-to-peer networks. Transactions can be seen by everyone, and you can do it a little bit earlier than the validator before they publish it in the block. Yeah, you can set a higher commission. Okay, I think I got you. So imagine we've intercepted a transaction and we're sending the identical one to buy. Question. Well, for instance, consider the liquidity pool index exchange. We caught an operation where a person wants to get a token for a large amount. And it appears that, are we doing it the same action on a different DEX? No, the same one, because the price will change on the same DEX. So we do it in the same contract. It's just we are buying token in front of them. And when these transactions will come to the validator, what will be the sequence, the order? In blockchain, it's not mandatory. If you just read the documentation, that will depend on the commission that you'll set. If you've set high commission, then you'll be up. But in MEV, it works in other different ways, because in transactions, there's an element called bribe, a bribe to the validator so that they put your transaction in front of this one. And last question, backrun. Well, backrun is like a front run, but like when the transaction is placed immediately after this, but so that nobody should intervene between that transaction and yours. Thank you.
Спасибо большое за доклад.
Well, thank you very much for the presentation. Really cool. I just wanted to learn your opinion. You made a K2 attack.
Какие методы митигейта, потому что вы...
What mitigate methods can be used, because you didn't mention them? Is it done through roles? Yes, it's a very good question. Actually, this check whether the executable code is on this address, this check doesn't work. There are many methods. The special command or instruction EVM that shows the size of the code on this address. But in general, determining that this address is not a contract, that this is a contract, we can't do it for sure. There's a way to check where we can check to be sure that it's a user address. It's a check required text origins equals MSG sender. We check that this address has an electronic signature, because contracts cannot set an electronic signature. We don't have the private key. So this check does work, but not for a long time, I think, because now there's this account abstraction standard that will allow other accounts on our behalf to send transactions. It's being discussed, and I think it'll break this check. Question.
Точнее, не беспаттерны.
Are there any cases where the contract is being deployed, there's no role that will allow it to transfer money from balance to balance, but at the same time, it is only allowed to be done as part of some proposal? Well, it is just programmed. You can do that, of course, but this way you're adding a constraint to be used in DeFi protocols. Isn't it done through discrete rights? Don't you think that it's a problem of this is the problem of the architectural solution, decision.
Можно запрогать.
It can all be programmed, but every time you are adding some constraints or blocks, you restrict the use of your own financial assets in DeFi protocol. Because again, if you have some constraints or blockings, you won't be added to a normal project. They will say, you're going to block your token and our users will stay with bad debt. So it's a problem when business doesn't have an agreement with technical guards. And by the way, this is Salted DAO. They're saying...
У нас все пользователи без денег останутся. Давайте не будем.
Спасибо большое.
Thank you.
А мне передавать?
Спасибо большое за презентацию. Было
Thank you for the presentation. It has indeed been quite exciting. My question is, how you believe
относительно
is
смарт-контрактов.
it safe to use modern smart contracts? And according to you, what's the next evolution step for them? Everything is quite simple and open. Everybody has a good protocol. There's no one or two public audits for DeFi from independent companies. If you want
Более-менее надежно хранить.
to store something reliable in cryptocurrency, you need to have it, you need to verify to make sure that this protocol has been audited by reputed companies. And I can say that the top projects, some of which I have listed, they have a lot of audits like that. They have very serious development culture. And in my opinion, this is the safest financial software that exists. And I think that banking software in traditional banks doesn't match it by far, because we don't see what they have under the hood at all. They check your commission, did something overnight, and you won't even notice that. Here, everything is tracked, and if like a penny, it goes a penny away. So there'll be a lot of noise. But again, you can run any trash there. You're welcome. It's quite a paradox. It is indeed safe. And by the way, there was a question about Ton. Why not about Ton Mail? Why this anonymization? Because in blockchain, you can do it in one click. Want to, place a huge amount at 10%, do it in one click. Nobody will stop you. In a second, you can come back and get your percentage. Everything is working there.
Вы говорили то, что валидатор...
You mentioned that validators are assigning blocks only by hashes. Shouldn't they check the validity of transaction to execute contracts? Well, they must, and they do. And then they sign the block header. So the way it's supposed to. This works the same way in Bitcoin and Ethereum, where the validator signs the block header. It's just in the header, in the block header, there's a state root. There are hashes that verify the integrity. But the signature, it's the header that's being signed.
Здрасте.
Hello?
Такой момент интересует. То есть очевидно, что вот
It's obvious
смарт-контрактов и
that smart contract auditors,
черные, это в целом профессия
both white ones and black ones,
уже очень...
are becoming a profession of the future.
Но
It now looks very attractive, but most likely
люди в эту отрасль
people are not deeply involved in this industry. And my question there is,
и вообще
what personal and professional skills should auditors have? Is it worth to take your audit course? And another thing,
с другими хакинговыми направлениями,
if you compare it with other hacking areas such as web,
да, насколько
reverse, and others, how difficult it is. And one more personal question that I'm also very interested in. Will Rust come into place of C++ and C++? Well, the last one is certainly about holy war. Regarding the profile, from our experience,
готовили аудиторов.
We have hired and trained a lot of auditors. People are different, very different.
Бэкграундом,
There are people with a lot of background in IT security, in low-level instructions, people who used to do reverse engineering and hacking, who understand assembly language very well. Well, they turn into very good
как раз вот эти вот
auditors. There are people with financial backgrounds. They're much better in identifying, detecting financial protocols. They see these attack vectors better. There are pen testers.
здесь тоже для
And
протокола
again,
используется фазинг, то есть
the protocols rely on fuzzing and other
прям разбираться, как
things. So you have to understand these things well.
его адреса
You have to understand how a contract is created, deployed.
устанавливаются, и
So the auditor should be able to dwell on all these things. And here, of course, there's an intersection with pen testers. You can have auditors like this or like that, but to become a comprehensive auditor, you need to understand everything. And it's a very rare tool. Just to go and find a person who can do C++, programming on a high level, and also knows financial transactions, and is also a great pen testers. So therefore, we don't even look for these people in the open market. So we train them ourselves.
такой как бы
Being an auditor is more about a mindset.
разработчики,
There are people, excellent developers,
безопасники,
outstanding security experts, but in order to run customer audit in with a high quality, you need to wrap it up to the final detail, and that burns the brain considerably. So it's actually a very serious profession with a high level of responsibility and accountability. You publicly present your results. If the client was hacked, then it's bad for you. As to Rust and C, Rust is the language that evoked the same feeling as Perl a lot of years ago. In fact, it was amazement. I
он шикарный.
used it to write. I thought it was a great evolution for the C++ and C++, and it's a great match for blockchain. It doesn't have garbage collection. It's very typified, or it allows tracking all the execution branches. From this point of view, Rust is the best language for blockchain. As a native language, I strongly recommend.
Вот. Так что
Cool.
заменить, может, не заменит.
So I don't think it will replace, but I'm sure it will be used broadly.
Спасибо большое за доклад.
Thank you very much for the presentation.
Сравнивать Ethereum
If you compare with Ethereum with a proof of work and Ethereum with a proof of state, will it be correct to say that criminals, attackers, got a much greater attack service? I was against proof of work from the outset because you shouldn't burn so much power to just, calculate some beautiful hashes. But Bitcoin just didn't have any choice, I think. As to looking at it from the attacker point of view, these consensuses, this problem of Byzantine generals, you can just generally say about that, any of these networks, if in the proof of work case, you can have a lot of compute capacity, and in proof of stake, if you have a lot of money. And that's it. If you want to attack a proof of work network, rent huge mining farms, and you'll be able to run an attack. Same in proof of stake. The stories are well known that people who were buying a lot of token were registering themselves as validators, and then invaded the network. Proof of stake is about the same security, but against money. And according to me, it's much more transparent and easier to see, and maybe even cheaper. You don't need to burn anything. Whereas money is money. Who owns $2/3 plus $1 in the network fully owns it, fully controls it.
математически доказано.
It has been proven mathematically on paper, and it doesn't only apply to Ethereum. On all large networks, everybody is working on proof of stake and has been hacked. So this is quite reliable.
Они используют
The guys gave a presentation on quantum blockchain. It's the same thing. They do all this work with the formal mathematical proof of the safety and the protocols. The differences are in economics, how they choose validators, how they vote. So the essence is the same. Sergey, I have a question. Thank you for the presentation. My question is about poison tokens. You said that Nolodex won't work with any token. It's clear why. But how's about centralized exchanges? What are missing tokens? They also run a risk, a reputation risk. They order audits, maybe even came to your company. I don't want to answer for them. We don't work with centralized software and don't want to. How they make their business decisions, I don't know. As to DEX, it's different. You can create your own token. You want its price to be $1, and you yourselves, nobody's going to approve you or disapprove you. You create a pool where you have 1,000 of your token and $1,000. That's it. This will already work for exchange. And it will algorithmically, the rate will algorithmically be calculated. I was talking about landing protocols that take something as collateral, and for them it's impossible. It's important that some trash should not be invested as collateral, so that somebody would bring some shitcoin as a collateral and take away the dollars. So their approach is quite serious. For them, persuading them to add your token would be very difficult. They say, we'll add your token if you have oracles there, and there. If your daily trading volume of your token not less than $10 million a day, if you don't have any backdoors or something, then in that case, we'll consider you as a candidate for addition. So it's all quite serious here.
Спасибо большое, Сергей.
Thank you very much, Sergey.
Традиции нужно выбрать.
Traditionally, you need to choose the questions that you like the most.
Мне, наверное, больше
Well,
вопрос.
I think I liked that question. Please raise a hand.
Второй.
And the second one?
Второй.
The second one,
Вот.
let's go here.
Все.
Great, cool. That's it. Thank you.
Если кого-то обидел, я, честно говоря,
I'm sorry if I offended anyone.